Good afternoon, YouTube. It's the Mail Away George Page coming to you live on YouTube. You know what, people? I want to apologize to last week. I know I usually do my MuscleTalk Mondays on Mondays, but something little happened. I had gotten a really bad spasm, and I couldn't really turn my head. My whole neck was in pain. I knew I couldn't sit here and talk with you when I was that much pain. So I apologize. So this is episode 63. And what we did was Jerry, he couldn't make it because he had to go to work and we had to push it back. Also, I'm hoping we might have another special guest coming through. I cross my fingers. And this is a gentleman that had my podcast before, my live stream, you want to call it. And, I hope he can make it. I already sent out a message to him and I said it's to me. And right here, we just got in my partner in crime here.
Hey, George.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing a little bit better. Just recovering from a cold.
Oh God, that's bad. Yeah, it's this time of year between people keep forgetting we still have the flu and other stuff going around here. But we're still dealing with that virus, but we still have that flu, which is bad too.
And one of my coworkers got COVID too, so there was that.
Damn. Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just with her the day before we found out she had COVID, and that kind of worried me a little bit. I mean, I had gotten the vaccine and the booster at least a month before the booster and the vaccine since January, February. So, I mean, I wasn't when I got the test results back COVID negative. I kind of suspected it was the cold, but still, it's hard to deal with. It still makes you. I mean, my nose is still screwed up, and it came from my brother, and he got it from somebody at work. And somebody at work didn't go home, and he told him,
somebody didn't want to use their sick days. That's what it sounds like to me. I know I've been through that before. I remember my nephew, my brother's youngest son. He was staying with me and my mom. And one day, if he got the cold, because he was going to a little special school, and he got sick. He passed on to me and my mom. And the next day, he was all right, well and better. I think the worst are kids. Kids can get a cold. They can bounce back in a day or two, and we adults get it from them because they are they just carriers. I think if you have kids, you gotta be careful and make sure you get your. I never did I hadn't done the flu shot in a long time. I think not in years, but I did get my second vaccination last week. So and I didn't get the booster yet. So I might see what I do get the booster. I think I go to my doctor or go to somebody else. I gotta remember. But
I work at a pharmacy, so I get vaccines every year, flu shot and everything. So
yeah, that's good. That's cool. Yeah, that's great. So anyway, last week, as we said, we were supposed to do talk of the Toronto Pro, but Jerry had to work, and I had my my injury. I will say a spasm that really started from my neck into my back. And I just couldn't really do much. I was it took maybe about most rest of the week before it finally cleared up. I got a little one of those heating pad things, put it on my neck, and took some medication and tried to straight. But we're gonna talk about Toronto Pro. As that was about a couple of weeks ago. And who won Toronto Pro was Mila Ash, and this was Mila's second qualification for the Olympia. So congratulations to Mila Ash. Also taking second place was Lisa Codry, and third was Michelle Jen, and fourth was my dear friend Tana Hugh. And when I saw some of the pictures, Tana looks pretty. She was amazing. Tana looked amazing. Yeah, and I think she should have got at least second or third. But the thing is, I was telling her that the judges look at certain particular things about it. She looked more conditioned than Michelle Jen, but because certain issues, and also if you notice, Tanner does have some. I think she has stretch marks from because she has a son, and the judges were. I think the judges penalized, especially if you have any kind of thing like that looks like it's kind of off. It's not, as well make the physique well or more put together. And I've seen competitors who look amazing. I remember a while back I did a thing where Rochelle Boswell at Chicago Pro, last year. She should have won that show, but they said it was her back. And then, at the Norfolk Pro this year, how I don't know how the hell Adama Day won that show, where Nikki Chartrand and Janine Kowski looked way better in condition compared to her. And you can't use excuse for the back because LaDonna didn't look like she was all together. Some of LaDonna's physique just, I don't know. She just don't look as conditioned as she should.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, also at this show, Ivy Rain, who took 7th at the Olympia this year. Last year she got 5th place, and she was able to qualify for this year's show. Now she took 7th. She had competed in like 2 other shows before the Toronto, and she earned her qualification. So congratulations to Ivy Rain. I'm a fan of Ivy Rain. I think she's an amazing woman. I think she's a great physique. I look at her, I can see she has great qualities. I think she will be great as bodybuilder. But I think one thing is I've got to get more size to her legs. Her upper body's amazing. That back, her shoulders. But I think she gets more size to her legs. That can really make a big difference if she switched from women's physique to women's open.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I forgot the other ladies. I think one lady, Lisa McLean, she took, I think it was 2nd or 3rd. And there was another lady. I forgot the other 2 ladies. I don't know them. Man. One lady, I think both of them from Canadian bodybuilders, I believe. One from Jersey, one from
Alexis Sullivan took 2nd.
Yeah, okay. And Lisa McLean took 3rd. Yeah, because I forgot my man Jared here. He watched the show. And what was the show like? How was it? What was your thoughts of it?
So I bought the entire prejudging recording and finals recording.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, I have the recordings all saved in my email. So that way I can just go back whenever and watch it whenever and stop whenever. Yeah, I thought it was a pretty good show for the most part. Not as many competitors, but
Mm-hmm.
always, the ones they did have were pretty good. Yeah, I thought Miss Hugh, I think she should have probably taken first, honestly. Just based off what I saw, she looked amazing. I couldn't really see the stretch marks, honestly, so maybe that was one of the reasons why, and I'm not into judging or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But she looked very well built, to say the least, and she had those abdominals that she didn't even need to flex at all. She just came out on stage and looked just absolutely ripped. But they gave her 4th, so I think it should have been first with Hugh, 2nd Mila Ash, 3rd I'm not 100% sure.
Between Jen and Lisa, I think Lisa looked a little more, from pictures I've seen, Lisa looked a little more conditioned, a little more shredded compared to Jen. Jen still look a little bit soft.
Yeah, she still looks a little bit soft. She's got to work on some things, to say the least. So yeah, I think that's a good good way to sum up who should be placed where, and I think all the competitors, regardless, won points from this show. So
yeah, because I think with point systems, it's mostly the top 4.
Yeah,
with points. I think and I think with Mila, she's qualified, so And then I think it's like 4 points for Lisa, three for Michelle, and four, I think two for Tana, and
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I'd have to go
and
back and check. But yeah,
yeah,
and Mila Ash, she's been competing in a lot of places. Like she was just at Romania, and then she goes up to Toronto, and
she did
and
the
she's been.
remember she also got the Rising Phoenix and the
Oh
Olympia.
yeah, yeah,
That's four shows within I think 2 or 3 months.
yeah.
And she qualified again um for the um for the Olympia. So as this year, it's only the top three. So I know she's probably she's right behind. Um, okay, she's right behind um Nadia, because Nadia, she won the Romania, and then she did the big man show. So that's two. So she, Nadia did just about as many shows uh as Mila. She, because she did the Puerto Rico Pro, did the the Olympia,
Yeah,
did the Romania, and then did the big man show. She didn't do the uh Rising Phoenix, because you got to do the quarantine still, and I think she wanted to probably save her money for the Olympia. That's the bigger show. But maybe next year, once things get pick up on the restrictions, we'll probably have her come here and compete, because I think she's amazing. I think she's I keep in contact with her. I think she's amazing. She has a great history of female bodybuilders that come out of um of Italy.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay. So anyway, while we do discussion, also we're gonna have a special guest on here, Mr. Big Keith Williams. Well, a couple weeks ago we did a little discussion about things need to be do to improve the world of bodybuilding. Especially I did one Sunday. I had Miss Daphne Carter on there, and my brother Big Keith, he wants to really talk about this. And you hear Jay, you can also ask questions, because we really
Yeah,
want to talk about what things we need to do, not just improve just the women, but also the whole division of bodybuilding. As you know, we're going to have we're going to have like I said, the season's about over. You might as well say it's about over. And for women's
the
bodybuilding,
year is about over. Yeah,
yeah, the year's about over. I mean, tell you, I
this
think we got maybe 2 more weeks.
the season is going into a what do you call it
Hiatus.
hiatus. Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, because like I said, used to be you had like something like the Arnold in March. But I think the Arnold, remember they changed the schedule somehow, and I think the Arnold's not going to be the first of the year anymore.
Which is yeah, and plus women's bodybuilding isn't even
Usually,
there anymore anyway.
yeah, yeah, the women won't start till like about uh I think it's April now,
May, April, something like
maybe like
that.
that. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's just it's a changing a lot in the sport, you know. But one thing is that Toronto was a great show. The thing is, wish more women had jumped on the show. I was reaching out talking to some ladies about why wasn't uh Mona Gusser Mona Porcelay there.
Persona, yeah.
Yeah. And I said, Mona. I was talking to somebody. Said Mona probably took some time off because she did Toronto. She did that, and sometimes she wanted some rest. And this was opportunity maybe to earn qualification. And
Yeah,
then also Nikki Chartrand. She's from Canada. But she lives here in the States. And I wonder why she can compete. And there's another person I just thought about a while back, Robin Triple-D Hellas, and she's also Women's Strength Ambassador. She's from Canada. I'm surprised I hadn't seen her compete since I think the last show was maybe 2018. That was Romania Muscle Fest. I think 2019. So 2019. I think it's 2019. Either 2019, the Rising Phoenix, and the Romania Muscle Fest. I think she did. And I'm surprised she didn't do this show. Also, she lives in Canada. Some ladies I was reaching out talking to. One thing was the big concern was the whole thing because Canada, they have restrictions because of the virus. You have to be, at one point there was a quarantine, the in and out. But now that the United States had left the quarantine between the United States and Canada, you have to have a PCR test. Meaning you have to, and if the test is negative, you're good. You got to do it 24 hours before you leave the country, and also you have to at least be vaccinated. And I think some people have issue with the vaccination with the vaccine. Some people just not comfortable with it. I can understand that. I can understand that. But this was an opportunity to get a qualification for the end of the year. I don't know. And some ladies are talking. They was afraid that the Toronto would have been canceled, so that's why they didn't really get ready for it. But they should have. You
Yeah,
never take a chance that you might get a shot. And I wouldn't I wouldn't sell your laurels and miss this opportunity,
yeah,
especially for a show like the Toronto, which is the end of the year qualification for the Olympia. Also, they already put out the list for the Toronto for the Canadian physique alliance, and there's only maybe two or three shows where they had female bodybuilding on the on the list. I think I think the Toronto's going to start it back over again the first of the year. I think it's gonna be early around about May, I believe. Also, there's a show in Vancouver, British Columbia, where they're gonna do a show, and we're about to be attached to it. And I think it's another. So I would say to the ladies who are most definitely, Mila, she got her vaccination. That's why she did the Romania. If you ladies, don't be afraid of the vaccine. If you have some conditions and some issues with it, I understand. But if you're able to take the vaccine, take it and take the opportunity, because you never want to miss out a chance to get on a big show like the Toronto. Toronto's a great show,
yeah.
and if this could be a way to order qualifications, there's gonna be a couple of shows. As we still have the new show, the indie show, the Savannah, Savannah Pro is now the Atlanta show. Still, the big question is they're gonna have a Norfolk.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I do know that there is a Vancouver that is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure female bodybuilding is included in that. So we just have to wait and see who the competitors will be. It's going to be held right around Christmas time ish, right a little bit before. So there's that, and yeah, I think it. I think just whoever um, shows up to these competitions, showing up is half the battle. I mean, um, Mila Ash, she just shows up anywhere and everywhere, and eventually she just wins. It doesn't always happen to everybody. Does that? And then one individual in particular. But for the most part, you got to show up to actually, win the competition, to say the least. And as for Mona, she's already got 12 points in the. She's already the highest in terms of point standing in the system. Um, so unless she really slacks off or something, it would be really difficult for her not to qualify for the Miss Olympia, to say the least.
Well, remember this year, what Margita Zemlova was she had 16 points before she earned her qualification by winning the Europa Championship, and you remember she earned her extra points from when she she did the Romanian Mimosa Fest. I think she took second or third of that show. Then she
Yes.
did the Puerto Rico, which took second that show. Then did both the Portugal and that was a show where she probably gained another extra 5 points. I think it was 5 or 6 points. I think I'm not sure I did, and she was at 16 points. So I think she was like second or third at the Romanian. So that was 3 or 2 points already. Then taking second at the Puerto Rico, so it's already 4 points there, and then taking points at the you know Portugal show. I think she did another show. I think she did at least 4 shows. I'm trying to remember if she did 4 shows. Enough to own points. And oh yeah, she did the Olympia. And I don't know if that was enough. No, the Olympia last year, no. But we have a special guest in. We're gonna clock him in. And this is my brother, Big Keith, Chief Keith.
What up?
What up,
George?
Yeah, Jared. This is my brother, Big Keith. Big Keith, my partner in crime, the hand of the emperor, Jared.
What's up, Jared?
Hello. How's it going?
Yeah. So anyway, a couple of weeks ago we were talking about a situation where it needs to be done in the sport of bodybuilding. I did a discussion yesterday, but Keith couldn't make it. I still did it anyway because I had my thing set. But we still want to talk about this because I was talking with Daphne Carter and she gave me her point, especially coming from the fact she's a competitor from physique competitor, and Big Keith is a professional bodybuilder, former NFL player. He has been in the game for quite some time, and he really gives some knowledge because between him and a lot of the ladies I talked to since this, I'm learning a lot. I just didn't know as much as I did when I was, just being a regular bodybuilding fan. But I appreciate him and Keith, his wife Tina, and all the other ladies who, educated me. So, what thing we were talking about was how the IFBB could maybe provide more assistance to the competitors that deserve. Because you got your card and it's laminated, but you got to pay $200 to $300 a year. And what benefits you get out of that card?
It's not laminated.
You get laminated?
It's just a card. It's not laminated. You got to do that shit yourself.
Oh, dang. Yeah. You used to get your Social Security card laminated. Now you don't do that anymore. What the hell?
Yeah.
Pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. So like I said, the thing is, with that extra money you put into getting, that's money you got to put in to pay your fees, all the other stuff. I personally believe, I know some people, they might not agree with me on some such. I think the IFBB should assist more for the competitors, especially if we know what happened. We had some, like I said before, we had some passing aways the past few months. People like John Meadows, your good friend Sean Roten, George Peterson. You mentioned Dallas. Luke, Havana, Hela Havani, Miss Jennifer Hernandez. It's just been a crazy year. And I was talking with Daphne. She said that one thing she should do is do like what she at her job, when somebody passes away, they do a sunshine fund for the family. So you agree on something like that? Like, should the IBB something like that so people have to do a GoFundMe?
I agree. That's a great idea. But, like I said, the question is that you have to ask yourself as an athlete, and, I had a teammate from Denver just pass away last week in his sleep. And, they said he had a seizure in his sleep. And
I'm so sorry.
Don't want to care to speculate on that. But, it's like in the NFL where I played for years, concussions are real. The IFBB is real, meaning what athletes have to do and how they have to push themselves and the things they have to take to get to where they need to be. And let's just be honest, this is a poor man's sport. So the risk versus reward is sometimes detrimental, as we're seeing.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing is that, you're putting a lot of, like, I think what you guys is, I like to call y'all the banana hammocks.
Yep.
Yeah. With you guys, I think it's more lucrative compared to the women. Because if you're lucky, you might get a sponsor, and then you got to count entry fee costs, the tanning, your food, your travel, all the other stuff that that's money that's coming in your pocket. And then when you do win the prize money, which if you're lucky, if you get into the money placings, that's enough sometimes maybe to make up for what you put in. But still, in some cases, it's not. You just you're practically competing in the red.
You're always in the red, George. You know, it's one of these sports where, as athletes, if we really looked at it, and I don't even care if if you're the top guys in the sport, people forget taxes,
Mm-hmm.
travel, food, supplementation in the world of, sponsorships as far as athletes is concerned. Hell, more supplement companies are doing ambassadorships where people who are not athletes, because of social media has changed that game where, they want the person with the most followers, so social media has played a big role now in that versus giving, an athlete, 100,000, 200,000 a year for them to rep your company. Company's not doing that no more. I mean, they're just not,
That's
because again, we have to understand that the supplement industry in the world that we live in is a niche thing. Well, I wouldn't say supplement, but the bodybuilding world we live in is a niche thing. Not everybody knows about it. It's not on ESPN, like which I was just watching before I got on here. It's not on none of that. It's pay-per-view. You can go online, and read results and other people's opinion, but again, it's a niche thing,
mm-hmm.
so it's one of those things where not everybody knows about it,
Yeah. Like
so
Jay was he said he watched the Toronto Pro a couple of weeks ago,
yep,
and it was like a small for the women. I think it was for women's body, it was very small. I think women's physique was probably the smallest ever had. I think the men were probably just as any other show, because it's the last show of the year, second last show of the year. And you got to think also, you got to go to another country sometimes and
yeah,
try, and that is just as expensive. I know a lot of ladies used to be before everything went to hell. A lot of ladies just jump on a plane, come here, then go back. And now I know ladies that I follow, like Irene Anderson, she did quarantine in Turkey. I know Virginia Sanchez did quarantine in Mexico. Also, Ann Moon and Barbara Majan did that. And that's also more money you got to pay in. And that's crazy. Hello?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is. I definitely agree. I think probably I mean, if I had a suggestion, and I'm speculating here, like what should be the solution? I think I'm not necessarily opposed to members paying fees to like an organization,
Mm-hmm.
but the organization has to give stuff back eventually. Um, my father, who's part of the um, uh, uh, carpenters union,
Yeah, unions.
um, he still gets membership meetings in the mail every now and then, and even though he's been retired now for a while now, that's part of you know that's
Be
that's his
yeah,
organization. Yeah.
yeah, be part of a union. Because that's the thing with unions, Teamsters like that. When you work to put in your fees in, that should go into something like we talked about a couple weeks ago, like healthcare,
yep,
life insurance, also or like a 401k or something like that. So like, and also like this, if you do retire, you still pay your IBB fees. That should go, like I said again, as part of your healthcare and life insurance and your 401k. Because I was talking to one person, I was saying like, if you like, I remember when I had my job, I had a 401k, and I wanted to take a trip with my family, and my supervisor said, "Well, just claim a hardship loan, you get the money." And that's something that could be handy for a lot of competitors, especially if you got I want to go to this place here. But instead of doing a GoFundMe, which takes about forever, if you have enough money in your 401k, you say, "Well, I can borrow from this." You got to pay it back. That's the thing is, because that's extra money you got to pay back. But hey, that's something that's there when you need it.
well, and again, we have to understand the IFBB, as far as you have all these federations of bodybuilding, natural or or whatever, and the IFBB is like, it's like our shield, the NFL shield. The IFBB is where you want to be at, and it's a big brand. Let's be real, guys. It's a big brand. I mean, it's worldwide. So why shouldn't you have something like that with a big brand like that? And you know, when you get to the professional level, of course, but why shouldn't you have something like that for a brand that's so big? Is my question.
Well, I know while I was talking with Daphne, said it's particularly it's all dependent on how their money stature works. Well, the thing is, like I said, IB is even though it's not as big known compared to the NFL or the NBA or some other sports organizations, it's still an organization that's making money. You have people who are companies who throw their money toward them so they can sell their product. You have like when we do the shows, you have the people there from certain companies selling their product. You know, like I remember was when they had but last year when they canceled the whole all
Arnold.
classic, yeah, the extravaganza thing. That was some money they lost. Also, you remember one thing that's very popular was the FIBO, and that used to be almost every year overseas. It's kind of like you break it down like this: the Olympia's like the Super Bowl of bodybuilding, and FIBO is kind of like the All Star game. You know, everybody comes together. There's a big contingent of people selling from apparel to equipment to supplements to everything. And I know I used to see Wheat Strength even had a booth there where for the ladies who were all the ambassadors were there. But now with that gone, I think that's a hit they take because that's I think it's the money they're losing. I think also EPC also has a interest in the FIEO.
Well, you know, we all know that there's a lot of money in this sport. The question is, you know, where does the money actually go? You know, I mean, the NPC. I mean, if you think about how smart the NPC and the IFBB has gotten, what are the biggest show? What are the biggest shows that are turned out now? It's the pro-ams. So let's be honest. As much as I'm a pro, and as much as people want to see the pro-ams are the bigger shows because guess what? You have more competitors, and guess what? Those competitors are actually paying to compete. The pros are not because when you get a pro card, that's everybody wants to know what that 275. I think that's what it is this year. That's so you get a pro card, you don't pay entry fees. That's what you get. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
What you get. You don't pay entry fees to shows, but you still got to pay for your travel and everything else. But people understand these pro-ams are huge now because you got the Tampa Pro, all these shows that you see, these pro-am shows, is because you get the amateur and the pro side of it. But the bigger turnout is actually the amateur show, not the pro show, which is great, which is good. They were smart to start doing these things, but you know, you combine the two, and most of the time it looks like the pro-am helps pay for the pro show.
Mm-hmm.
When you do it that way,
Yeah,
you know.
because I think there's more bodies in the amateurs because you're gonna have like with men's bodybuilding you have like the different weight classes. Same thing with women's bodybuilding. With physique, you have their classes. They don't go by weight; they go by by letters, by A, B, and C.
Yeah.
And you have more competitors that way.
I mean,
And they'll-
you guys got to think about this. Let's just say Gary Udick show, the Pittsburgh Pro or the North Americans. Those shows are now been extended from like it was a 2-day show when I competed to a 3-day show. And those are 4 days because that's how many competitors they have in these shows now.
Mhm.
Think about that.
And then like that with that show, you have masters, and you also have
Crossovers.
you have teen and collegiate.
Yeah. And you have crossovers. So you got somebody who was 45 or 50 doing 35 to 40, 45 to 50. And that's, I want to say $350 a pop, so they're, somebody's making money.
Yeah. What about to say, Jared?
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
We should
And-
definitely expand it more towards the IFBB Pro AM.
Mm-hmm. And I figure I said like there's only so many shows that do the pro ams, like you said, the Tampa, the Chicago, Olympia. They also have a
The
pro,
amateur.
yeah, amateurs. And one thing I want to say,
Arnold.
like, yeah, the Arnold, Arnold, and one thing also, I talked about this. I know some people may not like the idea of it, but masters should have a place in the Olympia because I remember years ago they had a masters. And I remember Arnold Schwarzenegger completed that show like in the 90s. Vince Taylor, a couple other guys. I remember that completed that. And and if you look at Toronto, they have also, they do 40 plus in, I think, both in the men's and women's divisions. Not in the women's bodybuilding, but they do it in women's physique. You all right, Jared? All right.
But yeah, I mean, that's what the NPC and IFBB are not stupid. That's why when they got rid of women's bodybuilding, they bring out women's physique. Now you bring women's bodybuilding back thanks to Jake Woods, which is a blessing for women bodybuilders. And now you got wellness. So now you got figure, fitness, wellness, bikini, women's physique, and women's bodybuilding. Again, those are all price tags. I mean, I don't give a shit what anybody says. Those are, that's money, especially at the amateur level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because think how many girls competing in bikini and figure and a lot of these things. That's a lot of money going somewhere, to somebody. Because when then you created the 212, and now you got men's physique, and classic physique, so I mean, if we really did the math and looked at what it should be, I mean, again, I say it's a niche thing, but again, it's still the biggest brand. Nobody else. I know I heard about The Rock trying to start some Alliance League, and I know Lee Thompson tried to start something, and Dillette has this deal, but nobody can compete against the IFBB when it comes to this. Yeah. Nobody can compete. Nobody can compete with the IFBB. IFBB is words. It's like comparing the XFL to the NFL or the USFL to the NFL. You cannot compete with the NFL. There's no other federation that really can compete with the IFBB and the NPC. Or maybe I'm crazy, but I ain't heard of it.
Yeah. Other than what are you gonna say, Jared?
Oh, sorry. You go first.
Yo, you go ahead.
Okay. I definitely do agree. It's like, trying to find alternatives sometimes to certain, maybe a social media platform like Facebook or Twitter or like YouTube or something. It's like, you got to go where the broad masses of people are and then work with them there. You got to go where the people are because you don't want to alienate yourself from the masses. You have to go where the masses are at. Organize them there, and that's why the IFBB that's where the masses are at. That's where the people are at, and that's where we should be focusing, organizing, and trying to change it there.
Mm-hmm. There was a bank robber by the name of Willis Sutton. Now, some people say he never said this, but it was just somebody made it. But he said that they asked Willie, "Why you rob banks?" And he said, that's where the money is. And that's, IB, why you want to be IB? That's where the talent is. That's where people like yourself and your wife and some other people that are at. That's where you want to be, And there's some people I've seen over the years that, my God, I don't know how they didn't get into the IB. There's some impressive people in the amateur divisions. And I often say like this, why did they make it? And that's always a debate. If they try to push an agenda, it's who's popular. I know one thing I do. I follow MMA, and I know the popular fighters. Like just this weekend, Julio Pena just beat Amanda Nunes, and I think as popularity goes by, Pena was more popular compared to other women who were on the list. There's also a fighter by the name of Carla Esparza who's had a 5-fight winning streak. But right now, she doesn't even get a shot at the title over someone like Rose Namajunas. And like my brother, Coach Harris said to me, it's about whose social media is more popular. Like how people looking at Jake Paul is one of the greatest boxers of all time, even though he's just a YouTuber and never really ever really been a serious boxer. Just started doing it for the laugh and giggles.
And that's and unfortunately that's in every sport. It's like I told Sean Ray a long time ago. It's hard for me to wrap my head around this popularity contest because as IFBB Pro, you see certain people and you scratch your head, and again, I've heard people say, well, we're the judges, we're there. Shit, I'm there too, and I'm looking and I'm standing on stage some guys and. And trying to wrap my head around, what this sport is all about. Because again, it is subjective, But like you said, George, there's a lot of politics that go into this. And I mean, it's like, what if you took that out? And what if, I mean, if you're a guy who's popular and people like you and you didn't look the best, should you still place where you place because of who you are is the question.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
mm-hmm.
To me, that's a turnoff. Again, I before I came to the world of bodybuilding, ran track. And if I came across the finish line, like I said before, I'm the winner. In football, we scored the most points. We're the winners. And there's no question about that. This sport's a little different, and I know I'm in it just like everybody else, but it's different. It's not about sometimes who the best athlete is. And like I said, I've had conversation with Jake Woods and, Sean Ray, and spoke candidly to some people just about, it's, people, again, people watching Toronto Pro, Olympia, Arnold's, all these things are now having pay-per-views. People's eyes, even when you're watching it from home and they're looking and scratching their head, or in the audience, I mean, they're scratching their heads like, what the hell? I mean, people are not stupid. So are they hurting the sport, or are they helping the sport by what they're doing is the question.
Yeah, because we talked about this earlier, me and Jerry, how it's at the Norfolk Pro, and I did a video about this. How long? I know your wife knows her, but no offense to LaDonna Day. How in the world she outdo Nikki Chartrand and Janine Lukowski, where she took 5th at the Omaha, and she took 2nd New York. I know the New York show was kind of a smaller lineup, but still, compared to a couple of women who were at that show, like Tamara McCarr, and I think who else at that show? I think Wendy Sanchez looked, I think, in better condition compared to her. And that was a show where Leah Deeney won the show. I mean, Leah looked pretty good, but if I compare it to the other women, I don't think she should have got first. It's just, it's just how
it's very inconsistent.
Yeah, inconsistent. I might see someone like Mila did both the Toronto and the Romanian. Then she takes 2nd at the Romanian. She took 3rd at the Romanian because Branca took 2nd, and then wins the Toronto over somebody like Tana Hugh or a couple other women that were there. It's just, what are they looking for? What the judges, because I remember, if this was a popularity contest, I think before social media really got really popular, if social media back maybe 7 years ago, I think Alina Popa would have won those last 2 Miss Olympias. And then they had the Miss Olympia they wanted. Like I said, the judges feel like, Iris was a bad thing for female bodybuilding. Well, he had Alina. He could have went with her. But, just what's the debate on that?
But again, the thing that we're asking ourselves, it's like, if you listen to the conversation between Jake Woods and Ron Harris from MD, when they were trying to blame Iris for the way that the sport had changed as far as women's bodybuilding. Well, he was stand to correct by saying the true Kim Shaselsky,
yes,
who was a phenomenal bodybuilder. She the one who changed the game as far as the women look of bodybuilding, and then Iris started chasing after her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you got to go back. So you said pointing fingers at Iris, because remember back in '98 and '99, and Kim '99 was huge. I remember that year. And his thing did all about Kim Savetsky. Then she decides to, step away from bodybuilding and then do fitness, and she do that well. And like I said, if you're gonna retire, just retire. Don't go in another sport where it's just, I've seen some other people have done that. People like Sharon Bernot, Michelle Rabelais, a couple other people about us who left because I think they had the physique that was good for that division, that works for them. But when you come in, you're the one like Bev Francis, she changed the sport. Then Linda changed the sport. Then Kim changed the sport. You have Iris. It's just, you go always say who's at fault. Can you blame Bev? Can you blame Linda? Can you blame Kim? But it's always going to be, they're going to find somebody. But they're gonna, like I said, they're going to look at Iris because she was the current champion. But really, truthfully, it was you. I think I agree with you. It was Kim because the fact was she beat Linda. Yep. There was a and then she retained the title, and then she goes up and she got a lot bigger by the time they hit in that year when they almost didn't have Miss Olympia. and then that's where they put in the that new rule. I think the 19%, 20% rule, because of truthfully, it was because of Kim.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing that people don't understand. Linda is a good friend of ours, and we love her to death. But her whole thing was, I'm not willing to change that much in order to obtain something for that long. I mean, if you remember, Linda had a beautiful look, and from what I thought that was going to happen with Wings of Strength and women's bodybuilding is when Sean Ray made the announcement when women's bodybuilding is about to come back, saying they're going to be judging different because the peel of, unfortunately, the peel of the irises and the Kim is not what people want to see. So they were going to, sounded like at the time, they were going in a different direction of how women's bodybuilding was. But here's the problem. The judges are the one who dictate everything. If you really, like we had this conversation last time, George, if you really look at women's physique and if you really look at women's bodybuilding, what's really the difference? A little bit more mass, from, the women's physique to the women's bodybuilding. And that's why you having a lot of these girls who maybe have a little bit too much mass for women's physique going over to women's bodybuilding, like Maya, who just won Toronto, who came from, I think when I first met Maya, she said she was in Louisiana, placed dead last, and they told her to go to women's bodybuilding. And she came to, I want to say, the
New York. Well, we got a little technical difficulty. Yo, bro, your sound is off. You muted yourself. I don't know how you muted yourself. Let me see if I can mute you. I don't know. No, he muted himself. I can't.
Hello?
You got it. I was wondering. You muted yourself.
Hello?
Yeah. Hello.
Yep. Hello.
Shit.
We can hear you. Technical difficulties with my brother, Mr. Big Keith. But yeah, Mila also, remember that show, that's the same show Jada Beverly had to switch after that. Was the Ultima show. I was saying that was the same show. Jada Beverly told me that she also had to switch because they told both her and Mila to switch. And I think somebody else, I remember
Tina was in, my wife was in women's physique forever as an amateur, and she could place in the top 3, top 4. Remember one year she did the North Americans and everybody thought she won, but she was just too big. So, they said that she needed to move over to women's bodybuilding. But again, the thing is, as I look at these women physique girls, I'm like, what's really the difference? I mean, like 212 in open men's bodybuilding, it's a weight difference. But women's bodybuilding, Jared, maybe you can, what's really the difference between the two?
Yeah, Jerry, he's wondering. Yeah, what's your opinion?
Well, I mean, there's only there's some cosmetic differences, like in terms of like posing wise, and like with they do some certain poses that are more, I don't know, I guess elegant would be a good word to say, and just a less emphasis on size. But yeah, it's basically, I think it's really not that big of a difference in the long run. I think basically a way to sum up the situation is people like the reason all these categories, and it's also for men too. Let's not also forget, like there's also been a big, wave of certain people saying, well, the men are getting too huge, too freaky, too blah 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 blah. And that's why it's led to certain things like classic physique or 212 or anything like that. So this isn't just applying to the women either. And my response is always, one, this is bodybuilding. It's like it's like by definition, like it's kind of redundant. Like what do you mean by too huge? Like put a limit on human development, human growth. It just doesn't sound right to me. And two, every time they do these limits, um, it doesn't work. Like literally every time you can go through, the history and see that like women's bodybuilding, every time they do these, guidelines or rules, they're just forgotten about within like a few years or so, and nobody ever talks about it anymore. And the figure fitness and physique girls, like they've grown quite significantly in size over the years too. So it's like every time you try to put a barrier on, human development, it just does not work. And I could also go a little bit more into the judging wise, and um, I learned some stuff from a certain unnamed pro that I talked to about, the judging in some of these competitions, and how the head judge can um, basically has all the power, and the other judges are kind of just there as like, to give basically de facto approval to the head judge, and if they don't agree with the head judge, they can just be removed automatically, and that I find to be a little problematic to say the least. I also don't think though that it should go directly to the audience to decide either. I think there needs to be some balance, but I don't really know what at the moment.
Yeah, that's all good. That's pretty a good consensus of it. Because like one thing I remember when they did the weight classes for women's bodybuilding and the Olympia in 2000, where they instead of just having one Miss Olympia, they had two. And Valentina Chepig, I think, was the what the IB wanted, and Andrea Bachette was what the fans wanted. But they could have just settled for one. They both could have just could have settled for one. I mean, the judges could have said, you know what, let's just go with Andrula, or they said, hey, let's just go with Valentina. They could have just instead of just giving us two champions, which is I will say that's the most controversial Miss Olympia in our history. It could have settled on one champion. It's just like the share of the championship is not really anything. It's like like I say, running a race when you tie. And in the tie is just like, I won the race, but then I got to share the win, with this other person.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, I just wish that one thing they did is like the judges need to go stick with what they want to stick with. If there's supposed to be a certain quality, if somebody has, if it's somebody just have maybe issue with their back, like I remember I talked about how Rashada Boswell, she looked great compared to Teresa and Vasic. But then the issue was say was Shauna's back. But still, overall, you gonna penalize somebody for one body part where the whole overall physique was just great compared to the other person.
It's the old saying, as being a 4-time runner-up at US Asian Nationals, George. The word I got the most, not understanding with the sport, apples to oranges. That's what they say. It's like comparing apples to oranges. And as a 4-time runner-up at US Asian Nationals, I think I probably have the most. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? I'm like, because he has a little bit better legs than me, and I got a better upper body. I mean, it's but again, like Jared said, if you have these judges all judging, it's like I was at the last Olympia, and it's like, why not put, everybody needs to make up their mind for themselves. If everybody's judging, you should put little slots up so they can't talk to each other. But I watched them sitting there talking to each other. I'm like, then you need to make your decision up for yourself. It's like if you look at some of these scorecards, you're like, really? They're very inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so it's like, what the hell, and that's the one thing, like I told, and I've candidly said that to Jake Woods. I said, when Phil came back and he beat Hade, and I'm just like, you do understand everybody in the audience is looking at the same thing, right? So as much as some judges like, we're up close and we can see certain, so is everybody else in the stands, and everybody's sitting there scratching their head. Even Hade made a little gesture this year when he has placed, I think, third. He is like, what? And the dude was pretty goddamn complete from head to toe, in my opinion. And I'm not a fan of Hades. I don't follow him at all. But, when I was looking on stage and I was looking at him, Brandon, and Rami, he clearly dominated these guys in posing, conditioning, presentation, everything this guy did. And so I'm like, again, like Jared said, with the weight limit and all this other stuff. And I'm like, what are we really looking for, or what is the sport really trying to do is the question.
Mm-hmm. And that's just a big question. Like I said with Hottie, it's just he looked pretty good from what pictures I saw.
Man, he
And
looked amazing. I mean, it was one of those things where you just couldn't stop looking at the dude. And it's like women's bodybuilding. Again, I go back to that when they said, we're going with a different look. And I'm like, you are? Because it still looks the same to me, as back in the day. But again, it's like Jared said about judges. They are able to dictate what they want and what they don't want. And until it gets consistent, until there's some accountability for it at all shows, it's always going to be inconsistent.
yeah, kind of like with I follow politics. How when we have in Senate when they have a vote and then there's a tie, depending who's the chairman or who's at the head of the Senate, they have 2 points extra to break the point, to break the tie. I think the same with the judges should be like this. If the other judges pick a competitor, and even though that one judge picks a competitor, I think he shouldn't have too much weight. If, like I said, how many judges? Like 5 judges at the table?
Yeah.
And then, okay, 4 pick this one person. You split it up. Okay, we have 2, 3 pick this one person. Then you have one judge and the head judge pick another person. But still, that those 3 people should outweigh the number between the head judge and the other person. And they say, you know what?
As an amateur judge for the, for Kim and Chad Nichols shows here, as a judge here in the in the Midwest, and you're right, the way it's broke down here is, all the judges, when it especially comes to things, the head judges head judges to run this show. The head judges to run their athletes through the poses, do all this stuff, but the head judge doesn't have a vote. The head judge, when it comes to what you're talking about, is the tiebreaker. So say, for instance, 2-2, then the head judge has a vote, and then it goes 3-2 one way or 3-2 other way. You know what I'm saying? That's how it's supposed to work. The head judge is head judge is there to basically run the show. The other judges are, from where I'm at, that's the way we do it, are the judges who judge the competitors, and then the head judge looks at them and says, everybody good? Everybody got their scores down? Everybody, we need some more time? You want to see something different? And then they move on. That's the way we do it here anyway.
Mm-hmm. It's so different from when you're in the amateurs compared to when you're in the pros.
Well, I mean, of course, George, now, from the amateurs to the pros, now we're talking money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now we're talking money. And I remember somebody once told me I'm like, well, how did these guys get on the cover of magazines? He says, sponsored. These guys, it's not like the magazine want Ben Pawlowski on, and it was Ben to be exact at the time. It says, money talk, bullshit walks. A sponsor would come up to us and say, I'll give you $10,000 for my athlete to be on the cover of the magazine. Guess what? Their athlete's going to be on the cover of the magazine. The supplement company wise, that is. Mm-hmm. So that's how that works. Unfortunately, like you're discussing, social media's taken over such a big role in our sport that it's actually discouraging. It's like, who is this person? So it's not necessarily about who has the best physique and the best packages, because like we all have seen this last year and years in the past, we're looking at their scratching our heads saying, well, how did she place? It's like, prime example, Irene Anderson. She was in third call out the world championship, but she was in top 5 at the Olympia. And that was only a week or 2 week difference. What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like how I remember how I was looking at the lineup and I saw Rashad Boswell. I think she was like 13th, and then who else I saw that say, how did Leah Denny get above Rashana? No offense to Lena. I follow her. I reach out to her every now and then. But, she's more close to masters than she is to full out women's bodybuilding. I know she competed as bodybuilding before. She did both physique and bodybuilding. But, she had a great look to her. But overall, she lacks certain, especially when it comes out to legs, good upper body, good, decent definition. But when I compare it to someone like, Mila and Rashana, she plays too high, in my opinion.
Well, and it's one of those things that we got to get to a point where the wings of strength is the money behind the machine now. We all understand that. And it has to get to a point where you have somebody like Linda Murray, you have somebody like Alina Popa, you have Jake Woods, you have Tim Gardner to sit down and really understand what they want in the sport. And I said, no offense at all. If I'm Jake Woods and I'm putting all this money behind, this machine, I'm gonna have a say. And me and Jake will tell you, I said, Mike, I said, and sometimes you got to put your foot down. I understand Jim Mannion is Jim Mannion, but I said the money doesn't work without somebody. The Olympia got sold for a reason, to Jake Woods, and from what I understand, was a heavy price tag. I said, but at some point in time, you have to sit down with the experienced people that you have on your staff, especially Alina and Linda, and sit there and says, what are we really looking for? Because I went to a show this year, and I'm not going to say any names, but in particular, they're looking, and they were both shaking, scratching their heads and sitting there like the girl who won, they go, and somebody in particular goes, she won't even place at the top 10 at the Olympia. And they were frustrated. As pros and established world champions, and they're looking at the sport saying, what are we doing? What are we trying to accomplish? We take two steps forward to go one step back. I mean, my wife's been a pro now for 3 years, and I've seen so much inconsistency in the sport in general for a bunch of girls that I really don't understand what's going on anymore.
Like, one thing they should do, like, they should, one thing, I think we should do like this. If they can get together some of the competitors, especially the ones who are not ambassadors, because I did a video where how Isabella Terrell did the thing about the ambassadors. So she talked about the ambassadors. If you talk about women's bodybuilding, you talk about everybody. Try to include everybody, not just the ambassadors. And they should get together. They should have like kind of a seminar for women's bodybuilding, and also for women's physique. Those are two of the sports that really need the help, the assistance, the attention, because bikini will get a lot more attention because the fact is it's bikini. Wellness is going to get attention because it's a new sport, and fitness, because even though the women are just as body as muscular as some of the women in women's bodybuilding, they still maintain a level of femininity. That I think that's what they like. I think it should be, a lot of the women in these two divisions should, reach out to, I remember a while back, Alina did a thing where she had some women in the physique division asking why not there's more, of them representing women's strength. But the thing is, women's strength was created for women's bodybuilding.
Yep.
But where things are going now, I think it could be a great way to bring them in out of the code, because they just lost their spot at the Arnold, and there's a good chance that they're not gonna lose their spot any more shows. But there's been some shows that's been done that didn't have women's physique attached to it, but they do have more shows still compared to women's bodybuilding. I think there should be a get together to all these ladies. Hey, like, reach out and say, hey, we need to talk. We need to see. We need to know what we want to do. Because, even though, IFBB, women's bodybuilding is not, I would say, part of the IFBB, it's still IFBB adjacent. And, and physique, its idea was, I think, for me, they want to go back to classic. Like, I saw a guy named Max Muscle. He does videos with the comparisons. He did comparison between Sarah Vilgas and Corey Everson. And that's the look they want to see in women's physique. They want to go back to the Corey Eversons. They want to go back to the Sandy McDowells, the Talia McKnights. And with women's bodybuilding, they want to go back to more like
Linda Murray,
Denise Rosowski, Laura Craval. That's the look they want to go back to. But the thing is, like Jared said, it's about human development. No matter what you can't, everybody likes to be in the past. they want to go back to the past. I remember, as you know, some time ago, a late politician, Bob Dole, he passed away, and he was running for president around about I think it was 96.
1996.
Yeah, and he made a comment: "We're going back to the 50s." That's the funny. People want to go back to the past, but you can't go back to the past. The past is gone and over. You got to move forward. But that's the hard part about female bodybuilders. They want to move forward, but people don't want the idea of it. They want the women like, if you look at somebody like Anastasia Kovalova or Natalia Kostanova or someone like Renee Tony. They don't want women like that. But the fact is, they're gonna be women like that. And if you either have a choice, you either say, hey, you have to either penalize them for being that level, or say we gotta accept it.
Or even in men's bodybuilding with the
Yeah.
physiques of like
Big Ramy,
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Frank Zane, Chris Dickerson,
Franco Colombo.
Yeah. Oh, and then compare that to the men of today, and there's people that want to go back to that era as well, and it's like
because I think with like I said, with men's 212, they want to go more like the Lee Haney's, the Vince Taylor's, Dory Yanks look. That's what they want to do. That.
Well,
And,
I mean, if we really honestly, if we look at errors as far as bodybuilding is concerned, and a lot of people got butthurt about it, and I'm in the new generation. The guys in the '90s were the best. The Flexes, the Ronnies, the Dorians, the Nassars,
Paul
that
Delettes,
was the best generation.
Chris Camille.
Yeah, Chris Camille, Kevin LeBron. That was the best era. And people get mad, but it's like I remember Dexter when they were talking about top 10 bodybuilders, and he was mad that I said, Dexter, you didn't start winning until all those guys start retiring. I said, and then became the dominant force. And he was in that era, but he was on the tail end of those other guys, who were competing, the Lee Priest or Sean Ray, excuse me, and those guys. And that was the era that, even those guys will tell you, and I don't know, Jared, if you agree with me or not, I agree that our era of guys now could not compete with that era of guys in the '90s. So when we're talking about going back, it's kind of a touchy deal because they were different. They like Sean Ray's like, we didn't have, meal prep companies and shit making our food and everything else like you spoiled little shits have now. He goes, it was different back then, and the look was different. In my opinion, it was better. I don't know how Jared feels, but that '90s era was a shit. To get into, Milos will tell you, to get into a top 10 show with all those guys was tough because, those guys were, and the crazy thing is, like Cedric said a long time ago, the funny thing, they were all friends. Remember, Ronnie didn't start winning until he had a conversation with Kevin LeBron. And after that, nobody beat Ronnie after that for a long time. But the camaraderie between all those guys was there compared to the era that we live in now.
Yeah, it's about, and I think, Jared, you agree with that, don't you?
Yeah, pretty much do agree with that for the most part for men's bodybuilding. Women's bodybuilding, I grew up in the mid to late aughts, so for me, that's my favorite period for women's bodybuilding. But for men's bodybuilding, the Doreen Yates era, that's definitely, I think, the peak of the sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's how it is. But like I said, every sport has to evolve. But I know people want to go back to the old days, but you can't go back. You have to go forward. But
and think about it this way, guys. I mean, that era of those guys, a lot of those guys are still around. Compared to the supplementations that are out in the world now, a lot of those guys are still around. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm.
That I learned early in my career that more is not better. So, and people have to understand, when it comes to the world in which we live in now versus, going back in the past, things were way less but better. When you really look at, the things, as far as men and women, the only thing that really changes, and you start adding all these other women classes and men's classes. But again, like Jared said, you're right. If you didn't want to be this big ass dude, and you want to be in shape, you start off with the physique, the men's physique, and then not everybody, some guys got legs. So, they say, well, we got some guys that are a little bit bigger and better shape. So let's do classic physique, which made sense, because then you got that look. And then, of course, I asked Sean Ray at the Omaha Pro, I said to him, I said, if you had the choice of doing 212 or doing men's open, what would you do? And Sean said, I would do open just because I would make more money than doing 212. And it made sense. Him and Lee Priest could have probably dominated the 212 classes back in their era if they had 212. But the money was different. The money's changing a little bit now, but we got to look at that thing. You got to look at those things too. Money changes, and hey, I can place third and win, an extra 25, 30,000 in open versus doing 212. Why wouldn't you?
That makes more sense because, like I said, you're competing to mostly, between one thing is like I was talking with Daphne, the money's a bonus, as you might well say. But if you got sponsors that put their money behind you and support you and pay for everything else, that's a good part about it. But it's not like you can really make a living per se off competitive if it's not all big. Unless you if you're Mr. Olympia, where you got to think about it, you're probably just barely getting back what you put in.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, folks, go ahead.
And also important is the fans as well. And I find it really important to buy these pay-per-views and promote it and everything else, and to support the athletes, call out bad judging decisions when possible, and that's really all I can do on my end because I'm not a competitor. I don't know if I have the genetics anyway for bodybuilding, to say the least, but I definitely can on my end, purchase the pay-per-views and call out bad judging and promote the sport and do interviews as well with, several bodybuilders like you and a few others. And that's really all we can do on our end.
Yeah, and it's just like, Chris Bibbs, said it, I think it was a couple years ago, he had said, was at one point in time, and I don't know if he ever implemented that, if say for instance, a person, want to buy a ticket for a show, you would put in who you were going to see, and then, I don't know what the percentage would be go to that athlete who was competing in the show. Because here's the thing, if you're an athlete, a pro, and you don't make the top 5, you ain't making no money. But if people were coming to that show to see you, then you may get, and Lord knows how much it is, but maybe you get a little something kickback, or something, and like Jared said, as well as pay-per-view, and, and there's only so much that certain people can do, but other people can do more,
Yeah.
They create more creative ideas where if you're not in the top 5, somehow you can still make money because, George, the world, especially for women, the world of sponsorships is a dying deal these days.
Yeah. And like I said before, like I made a comment how a lot of women don't make in the prize placing, they have to do as well. I'm gonna call it the beat the meat websites because instead of getting the women's fan base is mostly men. Yeah, guys are the ones who watch the women. There is a good number of women who are fans of it, but it's more the men who put money into it. While with the men's fan base, it's going to be a mix. It's going to be men who are fans of bodybuilding, men who are come say come sa, as like you say, The Rock used to say, who are attractive, and also women who are also into men with muscle. But like I said, the women, they have to do, because especially if you don't make the prize money. And like I remember when we talked with Tina, how I talked with her how she did the Olympia. She got 6th place, but still at 6th place. That's not in the prize money. So she had to do, she had a photo session with, and we go call. I got a nickname for him. I'm not gonna say it on here. And she had to do some like some of the like Muscle Angels and HBC, and also there's I know a couple other companies that do video and photo sessions, and that's the only way some of the women can make a little something out of it, because it said again, between the cost of travel, the cost of entry, the cost of food, the cost of their posing suits, makeup, tanning, jewelry, hair. And then they just gotta, to do these things just so it can make just enough so where I can go back home and have something in my pocket.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, it was just, it's just what it is. But anyway, folks, this was a great conversation. And I'm glad some people, like I said, be educated about sport about it, but don't think it's just about a bunch of big muscle people just walking around like rah rah rah, eat. These are athletes. They're elite athletes. They work hard. They you want to be recognized. Like I said, this: if you are somebody who, if you listen, if you follow my channel, you listen, you comment, you share. If you're somebody who's a promoter, reach out to both men and women in the sport of bodybuilding who want the opportunity to climb up, who can use some financial support. And this also, don't look for something from them. If you're doing it just because you want to support somebody and see their goals be successful, then do that. But don't be looking for something you shouldn't be. I've talked some days where they had somebody help them out, and then turn, hey, they want something. No, you just do because you want to see somebody succeed in their career. And also, I'm gonna say again, my favorite rule is no D pics. Don't send this man's wife right here, because I think this man will kick your ass.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, like I said, this was MuscleTalk number 63. I appreciate y'all coming through, listening. My man, my big brother, Mr. Big Chief Williams.
Always, bro. Keep it 100.
All right, my partner in crime, my Hammer the Emperor, Jared.
Yep, this was a great conversation. We should do it again.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
we should. Yeah, we'd love to get some more people on this too, also, because I know some of the ladies, some women. I was talking with somebody said that some women are afraid to talk out because they're afraid that they might get blacklisted. But my channel's not that big, and I don't think there's not a lot of people in the NPC or the IFBB is going to know my channel because it's a small channel. If somebody like AJ at a Family Bobbin channel or Dave Jumbo Palumbo, yes, that'd be somebody else. But my channel is small. But if you are somebody, if you are a competitor who want to talk about this, if you want to, just share your thoughts. If you follow my channel, if you know somebody that follows my channel, reach out to me. You can catch me, and I'm on IG, George MacArthur 501 or 501. Reach out to me on DMs if you have the time. You want to talk about this, I'd be happy to share your thoughts. And also, if you are somebody who are, like I said again, you're interested in promoting somebody's career in the sport of bodybuilding and want to see them do better, I would love to be the person to get in contact with some of these ladies. They would love to, and also anybody who who wants to really see the sport grow from what it is now to today. And also, one thing I want to say like this: be genuine when you do this. Be genuine, because these, I think some of these competitors have been taken advantage of, and sometimes some people have been taken advantage by the competitors. But be genuine when you do this. Anyway, I like to thank again my brother Big Keith, my man Hannah the Emperor, Jared. Like, subscribe, comment. Also, I say don't subscribe, comment if you're not interested. Once again, this was our MuscleTalk Mondays. And I appreciate your time, and thank you a lot. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Kwanzaa, whatever else.
Yep. Peace, everybody.
Later.
Yeah.